Good evening. I'm Lisa Wright Jenkins, President and CEO of the Council on Aging Southern California, and I'm delighted to welcome you here this evening. I'm so thankful you've joined us virtually tonight for our 2022 Aging is Art reception. For many of you, this may be your first time with us, and for others of you, I know you've joined us for the last 9 years, and we're delighted to welcome you back. Every year, Aging is Art is unique, evoking different emotions and perspectives. And 2022 is no different, despite the continuing impact and the challenges of COVID-19. Each of us has our own story to tell about life during the pandemic. Some of our photographers here tonight have chosen to express their story through their photography. Others have shared beautiful portraits and scenarios that resonate with them as they observe our world and the aging experience. If you live here in the Orange County area, please visit Aging is Art that's on display at the Bowers Museum now through September 14th. The Bowers Museum is a gem here in Central Orange County, and they have been our partner since the inception of Aging is Art. We send our thanks to Peter Keller, the president of the Bowers Museum, and his wonderful team for being our partners for so many years. Admission to Aging is Art is offered at no cost at the Bowers, and if you'd like to see the entire museum, there's a reasonable entry fee. Please visit 2022 Aging is Art. It's not to be missed. It's a collection of 65 beautiful photographs. For those of you that may not be familiar with us, the Council on Aging Southern California, we are a nonprofit organization based here in Orange County in the city of Irvine, and we encompass a 5-county service area. We're celebrating our 49th year of serving older adults, their families, and caregivers with an array of no-cost programs and services. We have an incredible team that works with us here that includes 97 staff members and over 400 volunteers. Many of them are retirees themselves. We have an array of programs you can see here on the slide that help seniors remain healthy, connected, and protected. Most of our programs and services are free to the community. We recently added an affordable fee-based program called Concierge Care Navigators. It's a geriatric care management program which utilizes registered nurses who meet at home with older adults and their families, and then our nurses create a personalized online care plan that includes short and long-term goals that incorporates input from the physicians, the older adult, and the family. And this unique program enables loved ones to remain safely at home, supporting their longevity and wellness. We serve over 100,000 seniors annually, and our team has been operating virtually for the last few years, and I'm delighted to say that we're providing services in the field again. We're funded by individuals, foundations, government grants, and corporations, and I'm proud to say that 88% of every dollar that we spend directly supports programs and services. Aging in Art is possible because of the incredible support of our board of directors who have generously underwritten our prize package for tonight's winning photographers. I'm so grateful for their steadfast support. We embarked upon Aging is Art 9 years ago, and you might wonder why. Well, we decided it was time to bring attention to older adults in a positive way. We wanted to get you to stop and think about them and the impact that they make in our world. We wanted to let others see what we see every day through our work at the Council on Aging. Older adults should be acknowledged, respected, and supported. So to accomplish this, we enlisted the incredible photographic expertise and support from the distinguished panel of jurors that you see here. They've guided us since the inception of the show and encouraged us to expand to an international competition back in 2020. As a result, we've received more submissions than ever before. So I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge our distinguished panel of jurors. Starting off is Michelle Cardin. She is the director of photography for the Orange County Register newspaper. She's a fantastic photographer herself. And then Jacques Garnier is a professional photographer and co-creator of the world's largest photograph that has been exhibited at the Smithsonian Institution. Laurel Hungerford is a local professional photographer who takes beautiful business photographs and other portraits on a regular basis. Lori Merriman is a dedicated volunteer and an amateur photographer and president of Site Services for many, many years. And finally, Barbara White is a professional photographer who travels the world. Barbara was the first to step up and join our panel of jurors, and the others quickly followed. And this year, we are delighted to welcome Ari Seth Cohen as our 2022 special guest juror. Ari is an American photographer, filmmaker, and fashion blogger. He's the founder of Advanced Style, which produces media, including a blog, books, and a film about fashion and people over the age of 60. Our thanks to their jurors for all your kindness, your expertise, and your sense of humor. You make Aging is Art such fun. I'd like to acknowledge the work of every photographer displayed this year in Aging is Art. You can see this is our display at the Bowers Museum. We're very grateful for the time and care that you have taken in capturing these special moments and then submitting them to us for review by our panel of jurors. Your photographs are breathtaking. I'm delighted to announce that this year's top 10 winning photographs and specially curated collection of 18 Aging is Art winners from prior years is currently on display at the Ontario International Airport, where it will be viewed by millions of photographers and travelers. Also, the entire collection of Aging is Art 2022 will be on display at the Newport Beach Central Library again this year from November 9th to December 20th. Again, it's not to be missed. As you'll see tonight, Aging is Art showcases the beauty in aging. In an era where the media focuses on youth and slowing or stopping the aging process, the photographs on display tonight capture the beauty in crinkly skin, age spots, jowls, gray hair, crow's feet, lip lines, and skin that jiggles. We welcome all that aging brings, including the effects of gravity. Every wrinkle and every jiggle are welcome here. Today, with digital photography, everyone can be a photographer. Millions of photographs are uploaded every minute. Correspondingly, everyone can be a subject. Yet what great photographs do is capture a story. A photograph can alter perceptions, shape opinions, transport us to other places, and at best, drive change. Skilled photographers spend time talking with their subjects and hearing their stories, and then striving to capture that story, not with a manipulated shot, but with the sharing of two souls on either side of the lens. It was once said that a photograph is never taken, it's always given. And that concept is seen in the photographs on display here tonight. We are so proud that again this year, Aging is Art captures not only the beauty in aging, but the dignity, the joy, and the sometimes difficult realities of aging. So let's get on to recognizing the winners of Aging is Art 2022. I'd like to start with the professional category. The winners in the professional category are, we're starting with first place, which goes to Juliana Calita for Dedade. Juliana is a first-time participant and has one other photo in this year's exhibit. Juliana is located in Brazil, and unfortunately, you can see her photograph here. She's unable to join us this evening. However, she shared the following story with us about this photograph. She begins by saying, "I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to show my work and to be able to talk a little bit about it today, and I do apologize for not being present. I'm a Brazilian, a mother, a journalist, and I've been working more specifically with photography for 8 years. Juliana tells us that she's passionate about her country's culture, the mysteries of the soul, and human relationships. She shares two photos tonight, and you're looking at here the first one, which is first place. And what she wants to share about them is that after living in the Amazon region for 6 years, far from her family, she returned to Rio de Janeiro, her hometown, because she needed to care for her grandmother. Her grandmother lived in a small town near Sao Paulo, and it reminded Juliana of the many memories of her childhood. She found when they got back together that she soon noticed the consequences of time. She said, "My grandmother was already over 90 years old and losing her independence. I traveled to her home and bathed her and changed her diaper, and we had long conversations. Despite her weak body, she was alert and aware, but also ashamed and embarrassed in the beginning of her need for help while bathing. I tried to calm her down by saying, 'Take it easy, grandmother. You took care of me in the past, and now it's my turn to look after you.' The impermanence and cyclic dynamic of life became obvious to me," she said. "The shower moments grew to be one of my grandmother's favorite things of the day. While I showered her body, she washed her soul and unburdened her secrets and resentments hidden for decades. This way, I witnessed her farewell process. Our connection, which was already strong, got even more intensified. It was wonderful, but it was difficult to see the obvious. It was difficult to see that time would not give us more than what was possible. I started registering little by little our moments, and I wanted to relish these memories when she wasn't here anymore. I wanted to capture these moments with real images of my grandmother and her strength and her weakness. She was and still is my root," Juliana says. Juliana said she decided to take a photo of the both of us naked, representing our symbiosis in our temple, the place where we exchanged our deepest confidences. In short, for 6 years after this photo shoot, she said she followed and registered the wise and cruel dynamic of life. And then on August 11th, 2020, Juliana's grandmother passed away. She was 98 years old, and she was sure of all the love she gave and had received in life. Juliana tells us that receiving this prize has been more than an honor to me. I can translate what I'm feeling with this recognition through my father's words. He said, "You have helped your grandmother be reborn." So such a lovely story shared here in this beautifully lit photograph and just capturing the memories that Juliana shared with her grandmother. So let's move on to our second place winner, which goes to Dana Hersey for A Day in the Park. Dana is a first-time participant from the Los Angeles area, and he has another photo in the exhibit. Dana, I have to say, this is such a captivating photo. I'd love to know what they're laughing about. So tell us a little bit about yourself and then your photograph, please.
Thank you so much for allowing me to participate both in the competition and in this exhibition this evening. It's hard to follow such a heartfelt story from Juliana. That's like, oh my God.
No, that was something, beautiful. Wasn't it?
It was really beautiful. My particular image that's shown here is part of a documentary series that I was fortunate to be part of called 14 Days in Great Britain. And in this documentary series, the participants, I was one of two still photographers, and then there was a video crew. And we literally traveled the length and breadth of the UK in 14 days. We did 14 cities in 14 days.
Oh my.
And during that period, there was a studio photographer that was shooting very Avedon-esque photographs against a white seamless. And my charge was to go out into each city that we were shooting in and shoot more editorial environmental portraits of the inhabitants of that city that we could run into. This particular shot was when we were in Newcastle, and we were wandering around a park, and the whole journey for me was a very challenging journey. It really kind of pushed my boundaries of comfort. I consider myself very much a commercial photographer. And so doing a more street photography, photojournalistic journey was very challenging for me. But this particular couple, we happened upon them, and they were simply having their afternoon lunch on the park bench. And so we engaged with them, and it was just really casual conversation. We always started every very quick photo session with telling them what we were up to, what the goal of the documentary project was, and then asked if they would be okay if we took a few photographs of them. And so this moment was really their banter back and forth, and it really speaks to a lot of people because it is so genuine. They were genuinely laughing at each other and just enjoying their afternoon in the park, having their lunch. So it was a really wonderful captured moment. And we were really fortunate throughout this journey to have, I personally shot over 650 different individuals through the course of the documentary. And the thing that I found really genuinely surprising was the generosity of everybody that we encountered. Through the course of the 14 days, I think I got maybe 3 no's when we asked if we could take people's portraits, which I found astounding. And so I had a lot of really amazing magical moments, even though it was a super stressful trip, because we would shoot all day, travel to the next city that night, get up the next morning and do it again for 14 days in a row. So it was rather exhausting, both physically and emotionally, to encounter all these people and realize you'd probably never see them again, never encounter them again. But their generosity of sharing their time was amazing for me.
So tell me about the goal of this program. You don't hear, or this project, you don't hear often about a 14 days of doing photography day after day. What was the goal of the program?
This the producer of this project had actually I think 2 years prior done a 14 days in America
Ah,
And then we happened upon each other through business purposes, and he asked me to join the Great Britain trip. And the goal of the trip was both still and motion. The motion portion of the trip, they were doing the same thing, pulling people just off the street, taking them into an isolated environment and asking them the same 10 questions. And those questions really kind of took each interviewee on an emotional roller coaster. And the goal of the project at the end of the day was to really illustrate that regardless of your socioeconomic background, where you lived, what you did for a living, we are all at the root the same. It was amazing that as these people were isolated and asked the same questions, the same answers kept coming up. And so it really was a journey about, again, regardless of your background, all of our hopes and dreams and wishes end up really being the same.
That's wonderful. I one of the things I like about this photograph is that this looks like this couple has been together for a long time and they feel
Yes.
comfortable with one another and also just still happy, as they age. It's really delightful just to see them both laughing and giggling here. It's fantastic. So well done. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Okay, so let's move on to our third place photographer in the professional category. It's Rochelle Steele for Portrait of Long Lost Loves, Jeannie and Chris. Now, Rochelle, I'm sure that there's a great story behind this portrait. I understand you're from Sacramento and you participated in 2020 and 2 of your photographs were exhibited. So tell us about this one. You might be muted, Rochelle. Maybe we're having a little bit of technical difficulties. You know what? We'll come back to you, Rochelle, for this photograph because we want to hear the story behind this one. There's something going on with this laughter between this couple. Oh, there you are. Hello.
Oh, yeah, we got disconnected. I apologize.
Oh,
I think
no problem. It's Zoom.
Here.
These kinds of things happen. No worries. So tell us a little bit about this photo, Portrait of Long Lost Loves, Jeannie and Chris.
Okay. Actually, thank you for hosting me. This is quite an honor to be amongst all these talented artists. This is part of a long-term fine art project I've been working about called Framed in California, where I'm discovering and exploring and celebrating all the cultures and subcultures here in California, which is my home state. And this is actually not the first time that I have photographed Jeannie, who's with me tonight.
Oh, well, hi, Jeannie. How are you? Nice to see you.
And what really inspired me, first of all, is that I'm an absolute romantic, but kind of we're next door neighbors. So kind of watching the love story re-unfold in front of my eyes was really, really inspiring. And then to meet Chris and just have that little moment where I thought, oh, this would be a beautiful part and just something really lovely in the project as the viewers going along. What a beautiful little love infusion I can put with this visual storytelling journey that I'm on. And I just thought it was beautiful. They had this charcoal drawing or pastel drawing from years and years ago. And this is after they've reunited after 40 years, I believe, apart.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it was quite an honor, and I love just having that little moment to share with everyone. And as the project goes further along, I know this is going to be really celebrated in the exhibition. And I hope that this moment of joy and love and that long-lasting love, and I think as human beings, we always kind of have, the one that got away or something.
Yes,
I think this speaks to that. I think this speaks to that. So,
well, it looks like there's just such joy in being together. And I mean, similar to the photograph that we saw before, where the woman in the photograph was laughing and obviously very close with her partner there. Same thing here. There's some similarities between the two. So this is wonderful, and it's so nice that you have Jeannie there with you. That's a treat for us. That doesn't happen very often, that we get the subject right along with the photographer. So thank you too for joining us this evening, and congratulations. Well done. Bravo.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Of course, of course. Okay, so let's move on to our honorable mentions. Our first honorable mention goes to Harry Williams for Zapotec Women with this street portrait in Oaxaca, Mexico. This is a beautiful photograph. Harry is a first-time participant from San Francisco, and he has 3 other photographs in this year's exhibit. So, Harry, we'd love to hear from you about this photograph. Tell us about this lovely woman.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. And be sure to tell us about yourself, too, as a photographer.
Yeah, I'm based here in San Francisco. I've been doing street photography, I think, for around 30 years now. It started back in 1999, and when I sold all my possessions and traveled in Southeast Asia with just a manual film camera for a year. And that's kind of like where I started my roots in street photography. Fast forward to now, and I'm still doing the same thing. It's just digital, but same style, different camera, obviously. This particular photograph, I happened to be in a small town in Oaxaca. This particular trip, I wanted to really focus on people's faces and people's hands, and just to show the beauty of Mexico and the workers. And I was kind of doing a juxtaposition of, I might shoot people's faces one day, and then one day I might just shoot people's hands. And to me, they would tell the same story, but there's just, beauty in both, and there's a story in both, especially in people's hands. This particular photo, I was in a really small town in Oaxaca. It was really late. The markets were closed, and I had just walked by, and I just saw this beautiful woman in this light. And I think most photographers will know, like, you see the image before you even take it. So I knew, I'm like, oh my God, I gotta take this picture. I can't speak the language very well, and she's indigenous, so she doesn't really speak very much Spanish. But she was standing around a woman, and they were making this, it's an Aztec drink called tejate. And it's basically, they mix it with their hands. It's made out of cacao and masa. And I had not tried it up to this point, because obviously it's the water, someone's mixing it with their hands and stuff. And I was like, oh man. But it's happened to me in different parts of my photography, where I'm like, I don't care. I'm going to do what I need to do to get this photo. So I went up to her, and I was kind of like talking a little bit of my broken Spanish about it. And she's like, oh yeah. Somebody was translating, oh yeah, this is this drink and you should try it. And so they're all standing around me. And so of course I had to try the drink, and it was actually really good. And then I told a woman, she spoke a little English, that had served me, that this woman was so beautiful. She kind of reminded me of my grandmother, and if I could photograph her. And the woman smiled, and she said, of course. But what I love about it is that it's this like very, very gentle, authentic smile, almost like not laughing, but just looking at me directly in the camera. And so it was by far one of my favorite portraits from this particular trip. So yeah, that's the story with this one. And every one of my street things, I have a little story about them. All of them, some way that I had taken a photo, or some people that have more of a connection with, when I meet them on the street.
Well, that's one of the interesting things about street photography, is that you have an opportunity to capture in just a fraction of a second, a very particular and beautiful photograph. And we see that in the work that is shared with us through Aging is Art. But we see a lot of photographs, of course, of older adults, but there's such a dignity in this woman, and such beauty, as you had mentioned. And the light, you have just captured her beautifully. It's really a stunning photograph. And thank you for sharing it with us and our audience tonight.
Thank you.
Let's move on to our second honorable mention, which goes to Soon Won Park for Grandma 1, 2, 3, Take a Picture. So Soon participated in 2019 and 2020, and then he also has 3 other photographs in this year's exhibit. Soon Wong is from Laguna Woods, which is right near us here in Southern California, and unfortunately he's unable to join us this evening, but he wanted to share a little story about this photograph. He said, I'm a 73-year-old photographer, and my 98-year-old mother lost her husband during the Korean War when she was just 27 years old. And she raised 3 children alone, and she went through incredible hardships during that period. And he said that most mothers think their children are the most important things in the world. And he said, that was my mother. My mother especially thought we were the most important thing to her in the world. And at this time in her life, you can see here, she's 98. She feels that she is happier than ever with her family near her. And my mother seems to have forgotten the past that had had so many hardships. And instead, she's celebrating life now by having fun with her children, grandchildren, and great-grandchildren. So this, I thought, was a very poignant photograph to share that was selected by our jurors. Just look at the smiles on these multiple generations and such joy in the little boy or little girl that's there, that's snapping that photograph of the grandmother. And it's just lovely, and a lovely and touching photograph. Great smiles for the whole family. So let's move on. I'd like to extend our thanks to these professional photographers. Thank you so much for sharing your images and your talent and your stories with us this evening. And now let's move on to the winners in our amateur category. Our first place winner is Mark Holly for Shirley and Donald of Pentwater, Michigan. And Mark has also been recognized with an honorable mention in tonight's event, and we're going to see that image shortly. He's a first-time participant from the LA area. So, Mark, tell us a little bit about this beautiful photograph. The lighting is spectacular.
Hi there, and also thank you, Council on Aging, for putting this whole project together and shining light on this population, which I think is really amazing. So, this picture it's my parents, and I've been documenting them for about 5 years in the small town where they live in West Michigan. And this particular picture was taken after we'd been separated by the pandemic for about 18 months. So my visits back and forth from Los Angeles to where they live had kind of been halted for a while. And I wanted to do something a little extra special just to commemorate us getting together again, and do something more formal, because most of the other pictures that I take of them are kind of in their home, driving their minivan around this town, which it has a population of 950 people, just to give you an idea of how small the town is. And it sits on the lakeshore of Lake Michigan. So we did these photos, and this is one of the last that we took during that little shoot, which really took place in their living room with just a sheet behind them. And there was just something about it that spoke to me and others. And so, yeah, that's you know.
That's wonderful. What was your parents' reactions to having their photographs taken of like a whole series of them? What do they think about this?
You know, they've gotten used to me hanging around with the camera. I think, you know, since I've been doing it for 5 years, and this series, by the way, is called Oceana, which refers to the county that they live in West Michigan. And they have become more of collaborators with me at this point, and we're having a lot of fun with it.
That's wonderful. How long have they been married?
So they're going to be celebrating their 64th anniversary in a couple of weeks.
Oh, that's wonderful. Oh my gosh. And you know, you can just see such love again between the two of them. It's very touching, and their beautiful hands, just the lighting it's really spectacular. So congratulations. Well done.
So much.
All right, so moving on, we'd like to acknowledge our second place winner, who is Jeff Laridson for Mass Ave, Boston. And Jeff is from Dorchester, Massachusetts, and he participated in 2021 and won an honorable mention, also about Mass Ave. And he has another photo in this year's exhibit. So Jeff, welcome back. As I told you last year, I've been on Mass Ave. I want you to tell our audience about Mass Ave and this project that you have embarked upon. So tell us about yourself and this photo.
Sure. Thank you very much. And thanks for having me on. It's nice to be back again. Yeah. So the Mass Ave project is one that I've been working on in earnest for the last couple of years, but in truth, I've been working on it for about 30 to 35 years, because that's how long I've been shooting on the street in Boston. But I started to focus on it, and And the project documents Mass Ave, which runs for 16 miles through Boston, through Cambridge, Arlington, and Lexington, and it goes from Dorchester and finishes up not too far from where the Battle of Lexington and Concord happened in Lexington, Massachusetts. So, yeah, it's a look at this street that intersects a lot of parts of the city, from some of the most downtrodden areas to the richest parts of the city. So it's a good cross section. And this picture was one I took waiting for my son to get off of work, and I saw this gentleman walking down the street. This is in Back Bay near Berklee College of Music, and about 2 blocks from where last year's picture was taken. And I just saw him at about 11 o'clock at night on a hot summer night. I liked his posture, I liked his look, and I followed him for a couple of blocks and got this shot. So so that's pretty much the story with it. As opposed to some of the other photographers here, I don't interact with the people that I take a picture of, and so I don't know him, and didn't interact with him at all. And that's generally the case with most of my street photography work as well.
We have an image that you had won for last year's, and I'd like to put that up here. Here it is from last year. Can you go ahead and tell the audience a little bit about this shot also?
Oh, sure. This is morning light. This is so I'm an early bird. I tend not to be up very late. And this is the sunrise on Mass Ave near Huntington Avenue, which is again just a couple blocks away from the other shot was taken. He's walking right towards Symphony Hall, and I liked his cane, I liked his stride, I liked his hat, and he just happened to be positioned well in the light. So again, the Mass Ave project is one that has taken a lot of my attention for the last couple of years. So I have a lot of pictures on that street.
I think that's really captivating. And particularly when you talk about just the variety of how long Mass Avenue is and how many cities that it passes through, I'm sure you've captured a lot of different photographs. How many photographs do you think you've actually taken? Would you estimate?
On Mass Ave alone, tens of thousands,
Wow.
of pictures. Well, that's the good thing about digital photography these days. You can take a lot of pictures, as opposed to the old film days when you had to pay money every time you hit the lens.
Yes. So you take them of men, women, children, anyone, is that right? Or
anyone who's on the street doing something interesting in good light. Yep. I try not to focus too much on one particular demographic, but since we're focused here on aging, those are the ones you see here.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing these beautiful photographs. We appreciate that.
Happy to be here, and thank you so much for doing this.
Of course, our pleasure. All right, so let's move on to third place in the amateur category, and that goes to Robert Kallman for Ben. Robert is from Brewster, New York, and a first-time participant. He has 2 other photos in this year's exhibit. Okay, this, folks, is a captivating photograph. There's a story behind this one. What can you tell us about yourself, Robert, as a photographer, and about this gentleman, Ben?
Hi, Lisa. Thank you very much. With me is my assistant and wife, Linda, who plays a prominent role in the photographs we make. This is Ben Rey. That's R-E-Y, as in the Spanish word for king. Ben is a very well-known figure around Lower Manhattan and other parts of New York City. Ben spends every Saturday and Sunday walking the streets of New York as sort of a self-glorified, outrageous, eye-popping, stop you in your tracks punk figure. He must be close to, he's probably in his mid-70s by now. Wow. And he has this imposing look with the spiked collar and all of the accoutrement that comes with the punk scene. His hair is highly stylized. It's about 12 inches long. He spends a long time working on it. But he's actually a very gentle, very approachable soul. He will talk to everybody who wants to talk to him. He loves parading around the city. And looking this way. He has a very interesting kind of life story. He was born in Bogota, Colombia, and he moved to Spain with his family, where he went to high school. And then he went to London. He migrated to London during the 70s, in the mid-70s, and made the punk scene there. And finally wound up in New York, where he was a very popular figure in the punk scene. And he still has that. He may be in his 70s, but he's very much a child of the 70s punk scene. And it's interesting. Dana Hersey, who was the second place professional winner, mentioned the Avedon-esque shots that were taken during the project he was working on. Well, this particular shot was my homage to Richard Avedon. This was made in the street, it made with film, with an 8x10 camera. Linda and I worked together to make that happen. And Ben is just this well-regarded figure that everybody knows and loves in New York. So if you are in Manhattan and you see him, if you stop him, he will be glad to take your picture with him. And that's Ben's story.
Wow, that's wonderful. I don't know if you have seen our jurors' work, Ari Seth Cohen, who does fashion photography with older adults.
Right. Yes, I didn't know anything about Ari, but I wrote his name down. Ben is actually a fashionista, and he's a fashion designer. He lives in Greenwich, Connecticut, of all places, which is a fairly a Tony neighborhood for him as a punk devotee. But yeah, he creates his own fashions. He's quite something.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Robert. How did you get interested in photography as an amateur photographer? And are you working towards being a professional too? You've got some great work here.
Well, actually, to give you full disclosure, I would say that if you regard yourself as a professional, you make your living by making photographs. So I have been making photographs since the 1970s. And occasionally got paid for them. But I think of myself still as an amateur. Right now, we're working on a major project across the country. We just happen to be home right now, but we're working on a project using 8x10 format, using film on documenting Americans across the country. So
that sounds wonderful.
That's us.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing your story. I'm so glad both of you could join us here this evening. Well done.
Thanks for having us.
Well, of course, of course. All right, so let's go on to our first honorable mention in the amateur category, and that goes to Ana Luisa Cortez for Mr. and Mrs. She's a first-time participant from New York, and she has one other photo in tonight's exhibit. Or in the Aging is Art exhibit for 2022. Now, I see there's a lot of love going on in this photograph, Ana Luisa. So tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, hello, good evening from New York City. My name is Ana Luisa. Thanks for the introduction, Lisa. Before talking a little bit about the image, I'd like to thank the organizers and the jurors for the award, and also for inviting me to participate in this online event. Yes, there is a great deal of love going on. This picture is one of the several images that I took at the wedding of Sandy and George. These are very close friends of mine. They got together a few years ago. They met in Buenos Aires, Argentina. They are both tango dancers. He's Argentinian, she is an American lady who was living in Buenos Aires for a while. The wedding itself was here in Florida, in Fort Lauderdale, and they decided to get married and to throw a little party to their friends, and they invited me to go there. And I thought, my God, they're getting married. Sandy's 76, George is 80. I said, what can I give to them as a wedding gift? And then I thought I'm doing the wedding album. And so I went there with my camera, my flash, and I took several pictures and I put a wedding album together, and this is one of them. And I thought it was very cute, the way that they were looking at one another, and also the decoration of the reception place, that how they organized the love and the Mr. and the Mrs. So that's the the idea behind this image to document this moment of happiness and love in this old age, if you will, couple,
That's
in this
wonderful.
senior couple.
And doing the tango there, that's also quite snazzy. That's wonderful.
Yes.
My goodness, that's excellent. So how did you become an amateur photographer? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, yes. I am another Brazilian participating in your competition. I've been doing photography for a while, over 10 years, only not on a professional level. I was working before, so I retired in 2016. And since then, I could dedicate myself to my photography more seriously. And I do a lot of landscape, but I also do a lot of events. And one thing that captured my heart a lot is that I have a friend of mine. I'm a tango dancer as well.
Oh.
And I have a friend of mine who has a not-for-profit organization that takes Latin dance to seniors. He goes to community centers and he teaches salsa and tango. And once in a while, I go there with him and I take photo of those events. And it's really super cool and very exciting to see people, how they are enthusiastic about dancing, about being together in a community. So I think that in a way, this is also what is behind this picture. I wanted to show that there is happiness in old age, and that there is a way to grow and also to find love, if you will.
That's wonderful. Oh gosh, that's a fantastic story. And it's true. There's just so many positive aspects of aging. And I love that you've really captured it here. Just look at how she's looking at him. That's true love. My goodness, that's great. Thank you so much for sharing your photo and a little bit about yourself. We appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Okay, and so moving on, our final honorable mention goes to Mark Holly again for Mom Laughs. And so Mark, please share the story behind this one.
Sure. So the other photo was when we got reunited after being separated from the pandemic. And this was actually the last photo that I took of them. I think it was around January of 2020. So before everything kind of fell apart with the pandemic.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, this is an image of them on their deck in front of their house. And they spent a lot of time here, you know, in the good weather, and not so much during the snowstorm, but the photo was actually initiated by my dad, who thought it would be a great idea. And I, of course, thought it was too. And so we just kind of stopped what we were doing and went out there. And it just happened kind of an impromptu way.
Oh, it's a beautiful photograph. And whose idea was it to bring the wine outside in the snowstorm? Was that you or your dad or your mother?
You know, it could have been mine.
It could have been.
Yeah, well, my background is as a graphic designer and art director. And so, of course, I was looking at this scene going, you know, what else can we throw in here? And so, yeah, this is where we ended up. And I will have to say that my mother, at first she was really resistant to this image. She was very much, because she's not looking at the camera, and you know, it's kind of it's a real, you know, she's really expressing something there. And but they really came around and they understand why, you know, people respond to it now.
Yes, it's very nice. And I love your father's dapper hat there. That looks like it's a hat from Germany or Austria or something. It seems to me like, I don't know. It's
Yeah, it is. He's worn hats his whole life, and he pulled that out of the closet, and we went out there. And I will tell you, with their permission, my dad's 93 years old, and my mom is 87. So, and they live independently at home, you know, just kind of as a team. And you know, hopefully I'll get to see them again this fall to continue my project with them, and you know, keep adding to that. So
I'm sure they've got some ideas for your next photographs when you visit. So they're like, let's do this when he gets here. So I'm sure something's in the works, it seems like.
They do. Yep.
Yes, they're a lovely, lovely couple. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Mark.
Sure.
All right, so let's move on. We have a new award that we are doing this year. It's called our Aging with Dignity Award, and this is a special recognition selected by our title sponsor. So our Dignity Memorial we'd like to thank them for their support of Aging as Art as a sponsor and for selecting this as their favorite photo called Friends by Jane Phillips, and it receives this year's Special Sponsor's Choice Award. So Jane is a first-time participant, and she hails from Santa Fe, New Mexico, one of my favorite cities in the country. Oh my gosh, the sunset's beautiful there, and the art there is fantastic. So Jane, tell us a little bit about yourself, and please share the story behind your photograph.
Yes, thank you so much for this award, and what a great show. It's just a real honor, and what everyone else said earlier. But I'm just going to read a little bit what I wrote. This is one of my favorite images from a centenarian series I began at a turning point in my own life. At 50, I was halfway there myself and had just left my work as a photojournalist for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Over my 20 years at the paper, I had developed a deep appreciation for the rich history of northern New Mexico. Meeting, getting to know centenarians, and visiting them in their homes gave me a unique and intimate insight into this history, something I felt that was important to document. Besides, I was intrigued by the idea of living a century. Maybe I'd pick up some tips. What were the secrets of these warm and welcoming people? I only had so much time to capture Euphelia Martinez, 104, she's on the left, as she visited with Rebecca Ortega Pena at her home in La Madera, New Mexico, as Rebecca informed me that she was planning on going shopping shortly after our session. So it was enough time, though, for me to capture their friendship and to understand that friendship and community is definitely one of the secrets to longevity.
Well, this is absolutely wonderful. When I look at this photograph, we were commenting here, my staff here, just how old might this woman be? She's beautiful, and we thought she was probably over 100, but we weren't sure. So now you've confirmed that she's 104. I want to just mention is we have a real place in our hearts here at the Council on Aging for folks that are 100 or older. We have something called Centennial Smiles, where we deliver handmade quilts or handmade lap blankets out on someone's 100th or 100th plus birthday every year. And so we capture photographs of these blanket deliveries or quilt deliveries, and we hear amazing stories. So it's just so special that you're doing something here and capturing images of folks that are 100 or more. It's just a lovely photograph, and you just see the poignancy of the friendship that these two have shared. How do you actually get connected with someone that's 100 or over? What's your process for doing that?
I'm still kind of organic with the process. I like telling people and finding people that way. Rebecca she just turned 100, and I couldn't go to her birthday party, but I arranged with her niece about meeting with her. So I did go meet her first, and then they said, let's go up the road. And I was like, all right. She also let me know, that's not her cane, by the way. She was walking without a cane, and she just turned 100 in April. And she just let me know she needed to go shopping. So back their time.
So speed it up. I've got things to do, places to go.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah.
Oh, well, this is a beautiful photograph, and thank you so much for sharing it with us, and congratulations on winning this special Aging with Dignity Award. Well done.
Thank you very much.
All right, so I'd like to share our congratulations to all of our winning photographers tonight who have shared their exceptionally beautiful images of older adults. And I'd also like to extend a special thank you to our photographers for sharing the stories behind these photographs, and also telling us about yourself and yourselves and your interest in photography. It's the story, behind a photograph that elevates it to another level, that draws the viewer in. And so thank you for sharing your creativity and inspiring us. And it's just been a wonderful evening spending it with you. So I'd like to take a moment to show you where to find all of Aging as Art's photos for this year. You can visit us at coasc.org/Aging as Art. There you'll see tonight's winning photographs, as well as the top 65 photographs that are on display at Aging as Art here at the Bowers Museum and soon at the Newport Beach Central Library. We'll also be sharing photographs on Instagram. So this includes those in the top 65. So you can see on Instagram, we're at Aging as Art. Follow us there. And particularly if you've participated in Aging as Art, we'd love to tag your photos. And then in this next slide, we have a quick view of what the juror selected gallery looks like on our website. The photos are all exhibited in alphabetical order by photographer name, so it makes it very easy to find a particular photograph. And here's a closer look for those of you included in the exhibit. You'll see we've added a link to your website and Instagram account. And if you don't see your site listed, we might not be aware of it. So please reach out to us and we'd be happy to add it to you. We want to help promote your work as well. You know, at the Council on Aging, we see the wonders in aging every day. We also see that aging is not something that should be dreaded or denied, but rather it's an important part of life to be embraced. It's about adapting as we age. It's living longer and thriving longer. It's about engagement, enrichment, and joy. And it's best enjoyed by planning for aging, much like we plan for so much else in our lives. You know, if you think about it, we plan for our education, we plan to get married maybe, plan a family, plan to buy a house, buy a car, whatever it might be. But how much time have you actually spent planning for your own aging experience? I'd have to guess that it's probably less time than you spent planning for your last vacation. So I'd like to ask you to take some time to think about your own plan for aging and how to make it the experience that's captured in so many of these photographs. And I'd like to thank our sponsors who celebrate and support older adults through their generous contributions to our events. And special thanks to Dignity Memorial, Epson, the Caregiver Resource Center here in Orange County, Providence St. Joseph Health System, O'Connor Mortuary, OC Elder Law, the Bowers Museum, and the Newport Beach Public Library. Thank you so much for joining us in this special celebration. Here's just a few more photographs from the Aging is Art collection this year. And wherever you are tonight, take a moment to visit our website at coasc.org/Aging is Art. You can peruse that 2022 say that quickly, 2022 collection of 65 photographs. And I'd love to know which photographs resonate with you. So reach back out and tell us, and certainly have a wonderful evening. And thank you again